Next on the agenda is Dr. Colin Willcock. He is the chairman of the board of 5G PPP. Please welcome Dr. Willcock.
Thank you. So you can relax. I'm not going to try and sell you anything so you can relax. I'm actually going to take the subject of the panel, which is challenges for 5G. So let me have 9 minutes and 3 slides on the challenges of 5G. Let's first see if this works. No problems. Super. So first thing I want to talk about is standardization. And standardization in itself is not the problem, but it leads to certain problems. And the first point to make out, oh, this is very interesting. I will stay away from that speaker. The first thing to do to remember is that 5G is not finished. So a lot of people seem to think, oh, we've got a first 5G standard on the slide here. It sort of talks about when the first versions were released. Oh, super, we finished 5G. This is the start of 5G. I'd use the analogy with a child. When a child is born, maybe it still has a little to learn. Maybe then's not a good time to send it out to work. Maybe you want to give it a bit of schooling. And 5G is a bit like that. We've still got some development. We've still got research. We've still got a long way to go. We're at the beginning of 5G. Indeed, that's when I get very nervous when people start talking about 6G on this, on this stage. We haven't done 5G yet. Let's get that finished first. The problem with this is that the reality versus the hype. So today we've seen lots of presentations about the wonders of 5G. It's going to be great. It's going to change the world. It's going to digitize industry. It's going to change our lives. Wonderful. But that's not now. That's in the future. And the trouble is, if we sell it like that and say, oh yeah, 5G's there, and people see that 5G's being rolled out, they say, well, this hasn't changed my life. I might be able to stream things a bit faster, but fundamentally change my life. No, it hasn't. So we need to understand that we're at the start of the process of standardization. There is a long way to go, and we need to make sure that we do the research and the preparation and the understanding to make sure that standardization is successful. And equally, we need to understand that we cannot standardize everything at the same time. So there has to be some prioritization. So at the moment, we prioritize for massive broadband. That's great, that's fine. My teenage son will be happy. But the promise of 5G comes when we look at the other capabilities, when we start looking at ultra reliable or low latency or things like this. And that is still work in progress. That hasn't been done yet. That is currently being done in release 16, and that will take several years. Okay, so that was standardization. My second slide, spectrum. Now, this has already been mentioned. If we're going to actually achieve the promises of 5G, we're going to have enough spectrum. I didn't really want to say anything more detailed than that, but we need to have spectrum available at the right times, and it needs to be in the right places. Millimeters is all well and fair, but to produce a general coverage band, that isn't brilliant. In fact, it doesn't work. So we need the spectrum available of the right amount, in the right place, in the right time. Do I get water? No, okay. We need things available at the right time at the right place if we're going to deploy and be successful here. And my last slide, business model. So there's been all sorts of mentions of spectrum and government regulation, and that's all wonderful and super. But we actually need to go beyond that if we're going to achieve the promise of 5G. And the key point is, if we use the solutions of yesterday for the problems of tomorrow, we're going to fail. So the classic model we have today, and it's probably a model that most people in this room are involved in, is we have the operators, typically the big operators, which have guaranteed spectrum. They have a number of big vendors, and then we have the users with their smartphones and things like this. And that's a fine model, but it only takes you so far. It's fine for keeping that business of users and smartphones. It's terrible for some of the things we promise for 5G. Let me give you an example. Let's say in Europe there is a decision that no one will die on European roads in 2025. Is it possible? Technically, yeah, absolutely. We could do that. We could do that. If we invested enough money, we could have a 5G network that would mean that no one would die in a car accident in Europe in 2025. Brilliant, great. So who's going to roll out that? Who's going to, only 5 minutes. Who's going to roll out that network? Well, the existing operators. Are you going to do it? Oh, well, what's it worth for the existing operators? Well, every single road, every single motorway, putting a network coverage there which is quick enough that it can react, that it can stop the accident within 1 millisecond. Oh, that's going to be very expensive. What do I get in return? Well, a few of your subscribers won't die. Will that cover it? No, of course it won't. Not even close. So, able to build such a network that fulfills the promises of 5G, we need some other business model, some other way of investing, some other way of building those networks. And the purely commercial one we have at the moment of big operator, big vendor, commercially driven, that will not work for a lot of the societal problems. So somehow, if we wish to get the full value of 5G, if we wish to do the smart cities, where we can use the 5G technology for tying all the services in the smart cities, so not just automotive and congestion, but water, wastewater, electricity, smart meters, all of these things, we want to tie them together in some universal way, and there's clearly advantages to do that. We have to move away from the purely commercial, and we have to go more towards the societal. What's good for society? At the moment in the commercial world, that has no value. The people in the country are happy that they have a nice life. Where's the value for that? Where's the shareholder value for that? None. Not interesting. So how can we make the world a better place? That is one of the key challenges. Thank you.